Welcome, everybody, to another episode of AATBirds Weekly Report Opposition Outlook. We're joined, as always, by my co-host, Mike Bauer, and we have a special guest, Bo Brack, from Phoenix Cardinals podcast for Phoenix Sports. Thanks, Bo, for joining us. Talk a little bit Cardinals-Eagles this week.
Guys, thanks for having me. Excited to break down this game. It's you guys got to be riding high, flying high at undefeated record coming into Glendale, a place that hasn't been kind to the Eagles, but it should be a good showdown between two former Oklahoma quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's one thing. Eagles have never won in this stadium. Last time they won in Arizona was 2001. Now, of course, they used to be division opponents. Now, they've only played, I believe, 5 times since that 2001 matchup in Arizona. So they are 0-5 the last 5 times. So I think it's a great day to kind of on Sunday to break that 0-5 skid and get that W, but it's going to be a good matchup.
Yeah, it should. I mean, as far as which way these teams are trending, despite the Arizona Cardinals win, I think you would say that advantage Eagles. And if you look at them, you match up position versus position, Eagles, I think, have a ton of advantages in this matchup. But, that's why we love this game. You don't know what you're going to witness each and every Sunday. And it should be, at least as far as the Eagles' schedules go, their toughest opponent to date on the road, a hostile environment. We'll see what the Cardinals can provide as far as their end of the bargain here.
No DeAndre Hopkins, so I'm happy about that.
You should be. I mean, the guy is an absolute monster when he's healthy and when he's not suspended. He's out until week 6. I saw him today. He was allowed inside the walls of the team facility for the first time in a long time, but don't fear, he's not going to be out there come Sunday. No surprises here, but it's a welcome sight for the Arizona Cardinals for an offense that there's a ton of expectations, Mike, going into the season, even without Newxs Hopkins, and they've certainly fallen short. So we'll see, if they can, for the 5th straight week, they've said they wanted to get off to a fast start. We'll see if that happens come Sunday.
So the question, we talked about Hopkins and him not playing. What are some other injuries? I know they're a little bit battered. Now, the Eagles have some injuries themselves, but, what's the offensive line with Pugh? I know he went out. I know Hudson was a little banged up. What's kind of their injury situation right now in Arizona?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the bookends go, like your left and your right tackle, Kelvin Beachum and DJ Humphries, they're healthy, which is good. With a pass rush of a familiar face and Hassan Reddick coming to town, that's important. But excuse me, as the interior of that offensive line, as you mentioned, Justin Pugh, I feel like he's barely gotten through one game healthy. And he's a guy that was maybe staring down retirement this offseason, Johnny, but he was presented with a contract to come back and hold down that left guard spot. And then Will Hernandez, I know you guys will probably kind of laugh at this. Will Hernandez has been a very pleasant surprise, reuniting with his college coach, Sean Kugler, who's the offensive line coach here in Arizona. And he's actually graded out as one of the better offensive linemen for the Cardinals, as consistent as they can be, at the right guard spot. And in a contract year, 1-year deal, Will Hernandez, he got ejected last game. He's got a little bit of a nasty streak, which I'm sure you guys are very well aware of. But he's playing well. And then Rodney Hudson is a guy that was contemplating retirement too. And it's not always great. But, yeah, as far as this roster, they seem to be getting healthier everywhere else. But, yeah, the interior of that offensive line is something that's going to be something we got to keep tabs on the rest of the week, and who's actually going to be available come Sunday. I think that everybody's going to be available, but what their actual snaps look like, can Rodney go the whole game? Can Pugh play the whole game? That's a big question mark. And, with Fletcher Cox and the interior of that defensive line for Philly, they could certainly eat and shut down, a lot of the things that the Arizona Cardinals want to do offensively.
You know who can eat too? Might as well get this out of the way. Zach Ertz. I'm sure he's been a very pleasant surprise for you guys. And Johnny, we get Tay Gowan, who's no longer with the team, and I think a 6th-round pick. Do you know who that pick turned out to be by chance?
I don't. Go keep going with your question. I'll look it up for you.
Okay.
We'll get that. We'll get that.
So just looking at the receiving core, I brought up the Arlad's depth chart here. You guys have some speed in your wide receiver room. You got Marquise Brown, Rondale Moore is fast. Greg Dortch is a guy who I liked as a UDFA when he came out. So there's some good speed there. Obviously AJ Green, we're not going to equate him with speed anymore. But this is a team that can stretch the field, take the top off of defense. And then you got Zach Ertz, who you've seen it in Arizona. We saw it for like a decade almost in Philadelphia. He's so good in the middle of the field. He just catches everything. What are you thinking about the Cardinals receiving weapons against the Eagles defense?
Yeah, it's getting healthier. Obviously, you mentioned the speed, the little guys with speed, Hollywood Brown, Greg Dortch, and Rondale Moore, who they incorporated into the lineup, and not as successfully as you would have liked against Carolina last week. Only 3 catches for 11 yards, and it really seemed like they were forcing the issue with Moore, who I think Greg Dortch earned more snaps than Moore, and they should have brought him back a little bit slower, but they didn't. It gets a little bit AJ Green coming back after that bone bruise. It diversifies the receiving core a little bit, adds a little bit more size, maybe some one-on-one matchups. Antoine Wesley's a guy who's trending towards playing another tall receiver. But, as far as what Ertz does, is he's a guy that's out-targeted everybody since DeAndre Hopkins went down. And he's just been key as far as a chain mover. He probably has been underutilized in the red zone. I think you guys saw a little bit more success in his Philly days, close to the paint, but they haven't been able to kind of figure out that one. But he's been a guy that's been approaching double-digit targets each and every game, and I think he caught all 6 of his targets last week, and he's just been a real solid chain mover for an offense that has been pretty slow. And Ertz is really starting to ramp back up after dealing with a calf injury and then re-aggravating that injury in training camp. And I think he's finally kind of finding his rhythm now come week 5.
So I did look up that trade. They did get a 6th-round selection. They did subsequently trade that selection as one of the picks to get Jordan Davis. So that's kind of it was just one of the throw-in picks for Jordan Davis. So
I'm fine with that then.
Yeah, exactly. But with that, I want to talk a little bit about the defensive side of the ball with Arizona. They are 5th against the run, 23rd versus the pass, and 28th in points allowed. Now, what kind of challenges do you think the Arizona defense can pose for the Eagles offense that kind of been, the second quarter has been the main quarter for the Eagles, scoring a lot of points and everything. But, the Eagles have a dynamic quarterback in Jalen Hurts with Miles Sanders and the weapons they have on the outside with Brown, Smith, Goddard, Watkins. How do you think Arizona's defense can pose to be a threat?
I think probably their best bet, and this is, I'm sure you guys hear this all the time, and I understand he's developed as a passer, but Jalen Hurts maybe trying to make this offense one-dimensional and force the issue and try to take away the ground game. You mentioned, how they've been pretty successful against the run, and they held Christian McCaffrey, who's coming off a quad injury, so take that as you will. Like against Carolina last week, held him at 3 yards a carry, 40 yards total from that offense. Just they couldn't get it going, but the biggest issue so far with this defense, they go up against Mahomes, they go up against the Super Bowl champion Rams and the Raiders, and it was a personnel issue. Like they didn't have enough warm bodies to cover guys, and they're getting healthier in the defensive secondary, and I think that's going to help, because they're going to have to be on point against Devontae Smith and against AJ Brown and Dallas Goedert. Can Isaiah Simmons pick up that assignment? I think that this defense, there's a couple things that go into it. One is the offense. If they're 3 and out and off the field and putting this defense on the field too much, it's going to be, do they have enough in the tank to slow down this potent offensive Philly? That's going to be huge. So time of possession with the Arizona Cardinals offense is going to be key for the defense. But, up front, they've been very disruptive. Zach Allen, a guy from Boston College, is really finding his way at the NFL level. He knocked down 3 passes last week. He had his sack. He was all over Baker Mayfield all game. He was all over Derek Carr, in week 2. And then J.J. Watt, a guy, he's still doing it, not racking up the sack numbers. He does have 2 sacks through 3 games, but he's batting balls down. He's just kind of breathing down the neck of the opposing quarterback. And the interior of this 3-4 defensive line has been solid. Not much as far as outside rush, edge rushing. So you're seeing it kind of more from like the front and then the back end with Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson, the safeties.
What about your linebackers? We got a Billy Davis revenge game here. He's the linebackers coach. Johnny, am I allowed to ask? I'm just kidding. I just wanted to bring up Billy Davis. And what was that? The 4-3 under he would run? It was called.
Let's not talk about Billy Davis.
let's move on. Sorry.
We can talk linebackers though. I mean, it's kind of a polarizing topic. I bring up.
We actually have linebackers now. It's weird.
Yeah,
I'm not used to it. But let's hear about the Cardinals linebackers. I know Jordan Hicks was a Cardinal for a while. I hated when he went to Arizona. I love Jordan Hicks. But listen, him going to Arizona and then moving on to Minnesota has been great for his career. He was healthy when he was in Arizona. It didn't work out for him here. So, but floor is yours. Let's talk some linebackers. I love linebackers.
Yeah, it was interesting that the Hicks thing, like they already anointed 16th overall pick Zaven Collins, the guy, before he even took the practice field, and it rubbed Hicks the wrong way. So I think that relationship was over Zaven Collins' rookie season. And then once this offseason came around, they just parted ways, right? And he ended up in Minnesota. It's working out. The Arizona Cardinals, I think Zaven Collins is finally showing why they drafted him. He's not a perfect linebacker by any means. He's not a game wrecker yet, but he's showing the ability to survive at this level. He's getting just more and more playing time, where on the opposite end of that spectrum, Isaiah Simmons, a guy who they took 8th overall the previous year in the first round, had big expectations. He was going to be calling the defense on the field. He got tore up his first game of the season against Travis Kelce, a guy who's going to wear a gold jacket at some point and have a bust in Canton, but just couldn't be competitive. And he's seen significantly less snaps each and every game, was stripped of his play calling duties. And he's really just been a polarizing figure as far as, can he make an impact on Sundays? I would look at, he's only playing like passing downs. He'll be out there when they're really going to lean on Goddard. They would just kind of try to play that game. So it's not a great core. It's not guys that are, running sideline to sideline and making plays for this team. I'd say it's up there with one of their weaker units.
So I want to talk a little bit about Kyler Murray and the offense. Now, what is, with Murray and the way the offseason went with the Cardinals and it just seems like they're not clicking on all, and firing on all cylinders. I know that has to do with not having Hopkins and some injuries along the offensive playmakers. But I just feel like, because we have former Cardinal, I do a show with Jeremy Bridges, and he always talks about Cliff Kingsbury. What's with him, his coaching style, and like with Kyler and with Kingsbury, is there something that's just like not clicking right away so far in the start of the season?
I would say obviously Kingsbury sometimes can be a 4-letter word. Like it sounds like Billy Davis was there in Philly. A lot of people want to see more from a guy who was brought in to help this offense, and he has. I mean, offensively, each and every year they've improved. They've improved wins each and every year, and I think that he was underprepared this season, or going into this season, and the offense has suffered significantly. But also there hasn't been a whole lot of execution. I think Kyler has been good. His playmakers haven't helped him out, and it's been kind of who's available and who's not available. They've come alive, the second half of last week, but it was a stagnant first half last week. It's been a stagnant first half actually the entire season, and then one quarter against Vegas. So it's like, 3 of your 16 quarters, you've had, a decent offensive football. And I think most of that does fall on the shoulders of Cliff Kingsbury. And they think, a lot of people are, skeptical whether he possesses the ability to scheme up a game plan to really utilize Kyler Murray in his skill set. But he was able to do it in years past. It's just been, I think that they really dropped the ball as far as the preparation for the season. Training camp was very country club-esque, and they were really knocking some rust off with some new parts and not their starting caliber guys in there. And it's just been a bunch of different variables, but they've been talking ad nauseum, guys, about fast starts, and they haven't been close to fast start. I mean, it's been 3 and out. It feels like each and every of their first 3 drives of the season. And I think that falls on Kingsbury's shoulders, but the players too need to be held accountable as far as, making big plays on third down and extending drives. And they're not holding up their end of the bargain either.
So this is kind of a 2-part question here. You're talking about preparation. It had been discussed, Kyler Murray with the whole video game thing and his contract. I'm sure, unfortunately, you had to talk about that at length. So we'll just kind of skim over that. But do you think something like that could be part of the preparation process? And second part of the question here, Cliff Kingsbury, his contract is up after this year. Am I correct about that? Or did they extend him?
They did. He got an extension right around draft combine time. Him and the GM, Steve Keim, they both received extensions.
So all these guys are going to be tied together for a while here. Murray, Steve Keim, Cliff Kingsbury. So, what do you think the Cardinals can do to get out fast this week against our team? And it could be either offensively or defensively.
Yeah, I'd like to be optimistic that the offense is going to be the one that's going to come out of the gate strong, because the defense has been holding up their end the last couple of weeks. And offensively, to do that's going to be so important for this team to just make plays and have like that game script has been brutal. I mean, you talk about the first 10 to 15 plays of a game, and you haven't seen anything that like has been, one, like a great call, or 2, executed to just passable NFL offenses. So it's just going to come down to, can Cliff dial up the right, scheme, and can Kyler and whoever's available for him as far as the wide receivers and tight ends and running backs, can they execute it enough and sustain a drive and maybe get points? And I don't even, they've been outscored 31-0 this first quarter of the season. So it's going to be huge for them to find their stride. And if they can, a Cliff Kingsbury coach team with a lead, and I'm sure this goes, across the league, it's so much more successful in how they run their offense and execute their offense the rest of the game, just with playing with a lead.
You're muted, Johnny. You're muted. All right. Johnny's muted, so I'm just going to read this question from Peanut. You back, Johnny?
Sorry, I had a train going. I didn't want that in the background, so go ahead. I'll let Mike go ahead. Read it, Mike.
All right. So do the Cardinals fans talk about Kyler's football prep and pre-snap knowledge as much as the outside media? Great question, because we're obviously here in Pennsylvania, so we don't get – all we get is national media stuff about the Cardinals. Right. So what does it look like from your perspective?
I think it's overblown for sure. I think he's a guy that puts in the work on and off the field, and he's a guy that has a different profession, outside of football, and it's gaming, and a lot of people like to poke fun of it, and it's fine. And he becomes an easy mark when that happens, when the team is not successful, when he's not putting up, big numbers. So as far as like the pre-snap stuff, I know there was like the week 1 miscue where he didn't call the right blocking scheme when they had a defensive back rushing or blitzing, and it was pretty glaring. And I think it was like the Last Chance U that called it out. And it's like, yeah, I mean, that was a bad breakdown, but at the same time, like more often than not, he's got most of the stuff as far as pre-snap set where it needs to be. And as far as the preparation, there aren't a whole lot of guys that prep harder than him as far as the Cardinals go. So he's just a kind of soft-spoken guy. He's not going to jump to defend himself as quick as other guys. And it's just a real relaxed attitude that I think people take advantage of. I think he's fine. And it's more about execution on each and every play than, the pre-snap stuff and the preparation.
So, we usually do like something like predictions and stuff like that. So but I want to do this. So it's Ulecka Locks. So something that we think is going to happen. Doesn't have to be this game. If you want to do this game, you can. But it can be like through the NFL. Something that you think is definitely going to happen.
This week?
This weekend, yes.
Man, put me on the spot here.
Yeah, that's a pretty big spot. I didn't tell you beforehand. So
I think we can probably set up the Zach Ertz tutty. I think the anytime touchdown happens, but could it be in a losing effort? Sure. I mean, I think that Zach Ertz absolutely will be geared up to play this game, and he's finally finding his stride out there, and he should be as motivated as anybody.
So do you want to give a score for the game? What do you think is going to happen with the prediction aspect of this game? If you want to just do like a key matchup you're watching, if you don't want to put out a prediction, you can do that.
Sure.
It's up to you what you want to.
Well, I mean, Kyler Murray and his son Reddick, the former Cardinal coming into town, he had a field day when he was with a member of the Carolina Panthers, and he had a lot of good games in his final season as an Arizona Cardinal. And I think that it's going to be key for DJ Humphries, the left tackle, to hold off Hassan Reddick wherever he might line up. If he gets some reps against Calvin Beachum, look out, and he could be putting his former quarterback on the turf. I think that's going to be a key matchup, no doubt about it. And then, the corners that Philly has, ball hawking corners, and James Bradbury and Darius Slay. I mean, that's going to be something that Kyler Murray is going to have to be, uber aware of. And his playmakers are going to have to do an extra good job as far as just creating space and not putting the ball in harm's way against those guys.
So, thanks again for coming on tonight. Where can people find you? What are you doing? What do you got going on so people can look you up and get some more insight into what you do?
Yeah, if you guys want to check out kind of a behind enemy lines, look at who the Eagles are playing this week. We're talking every afternoon on PHNX Sports. You can find us on YouTube at PHNX_Cardinals. We're talking Cards each and every day. So we're talking the Birds. The rest of the week, we're previewing this matchup tomorrow, Friday, and then we'll have the halftime show and post-game show breaking it down. So if we're either sad about it and you guys are celebrating, or we're happy we just knocked the last undefeated team off their pedestal, we'll see. So you can find us PHNX Sports. We'd appreciate it. We're talking Birds all week long.
No, like I said, thank you again for joining us tonight, and hopefully the Birds win. One Bird's going to win Sunday. But thanks again for joining us.
When you guys are done with Trace McSorley, can we have him, please?
Dude, it's going to come up soon. I mean, Colt McCoy's coming off IR, this week or next, and McSorley's going to be available. They're not going to be able to sneak him through the practice squad another time.
Let's bring him in.
Thanks again, Bo.
Thanks, guys.
Bo.
Well, we don't want to put Mike in the big spot.
No, don't do that. Come on.
But no, some good insight with this Cardinals team coming in. But just a short little recap of the Eagles' victory on Sunday against the Jacksonville Jaguars in the slop. Going to talk a little bit about that, and then a little bit about breaking this game down, getting our predictions and everything, and then skedaddling on out of here. But no, it's just looking at that Jacksonville game. They didn't throw the ball a ton. Again, you didn't really expect them to with the way the rain was coming down, and Trevor Lawrence had a tougher time, securing, holding on to the ball than Jalen Hurts did. But you give Jacksonville the 14-0 lead. I mean, and then 29 unanswered points. So I think the Eagles did very well with what they kind of gave Jacksonville.
Can I say something?
Oh, here we go.
Pretty sure that I picked the Eagles to score 29 points, and everyone's like, "That's a weird number."
We will go over all that in a few. We will go over all the predictions and the locks and see who came out where. We will get to that.
I would also like to say I actually think this was one of Jalen Hurts' best games as an Eagle.
Oh, well, enlighten me.
Rally the team from 14 down. You're down 40. Look, it looked ugly at first. It was almost as ugly as the Penn State Northwestern game on Saturday.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
Wolf. But the conditions weren't good. Everyone stayed calm. Team rallied, and he didn't really show up on the stat sheet as anything good. 16 to 25 for 204, no touchdowns and 1 pick. Which, by the way, both of his interceptions this year haven't entirely been his fault. That thing skyrocketed up in the air. I felt like it hung up there forever.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where if these things get tipped another way, they're a completion or an incompletion, a completion to us or an incompletion. Ran 16 carries, 38 yards. Some of those were scrambles, obviously. So I really feel like one thing that I had said a few weeks ago is I'm concerned with how much he's running. I really feel like Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen are trying to take the ball out of his hands as a runner more, and I like that. But to me, the poise, the way he just held on, stayed calm, brought the team back, I feel like this was one of his best games as the Eagles quarterback.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Watching this game, and again, Jacksonville was the #1 run defense, and they put 210 yards rushing on him, and they put a clinic. If you watch some of the all-22 of Landon Dickerson on Robertson Harris and just putting him on his back multiple times, he had eight pancakes, and not 8 pancakes to eat, 8 pancakes blocking. The other thing I thought was very good to see is Jack Driscoll stepping in, and he really didn't look overmatched. He had a couple rough reps when Jalen dropped back the pass, but mostly, he did pretty well. And Nsuo Opeta stepping in for Isaac Seumalo. It really shows you Jeff Stoutland is one heck of a coach with what he can do and how he can mold players into something. But again, that's something that's going to be up in the air, and we'll talk a little bit about the injury concerns with Mailata and Avonte Maddox still, and you have Jake Elliott and Seumalo and Slay. So we'll get into that. But all in all, this game, they score 29 unanswered points. They win the ball game. They get the 4-0, and they did it also defensively, causing 5 turnovers. Jonathan Gannon, like you like to put in there. It's pretty, pretty clever by you, but proven to be pretty good. He's disguising coverages. It's something that I heard Mike Quick talking about but I had Mike Quick and Merrill Reese on while I was watching some of the game because the announcers were kind of annoying. So I listened a little bit of Merrill and Mike, and Mike Quick was talking about how the defense is going to they're showing one thing, and then when the ball is snapped, they move around and change everything up. Not something they were doing last year. Last year, it was kind of, this is what we're going to do, and it's just showed you the whole way because, one, he didn't have the playmakers and or players to be able to run certain schemes and do certain things because of the inability of the athleticism of some of these players. But they're doing a heck of a good job, and it's just something that, it proves maybe it proves they just needed the players, more talented players on this defense to be able to run his scheme if he has a scheme.
But no, because a lot of the players that are here were here last year.
Yeah.
We're looking
There's
at
a few, but yeah.
Obviously now we have Hassan Reddick, Kaiser White, and James Bradbury. For the most part, Avonte Maddox was here. TJ Edwards was here. Our line isn't too much different, save Jordan Davis. Milton Williams was here. Derek Barnett was here. He's not here now. He's out with the torn ACL. So really, I feel like yes, but no, because we have some more pieces sprinkled in. I think our overall defensive depth is better, which allows you to get more creative because the guys you're rotating in are better than some of the backups we had last year. But I do want to touch on what you were talking about with Driscoll coming in, Sua Opeta coming in. Miles Sanders had a career day.
Yeah.
Playing behind
27 rushes, I believe.
It was. I put on here 27 carries for 134 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, run, Miles, run. It is about damn time. And that being said, too, Trey Sermon got 2 carries. He looked pretty good as well.
Yeah.
We had talked about it. There's a possibility Trey Sermon's our starting running back next year if they decide to go cheap and not re-sign Miles Sanders. I don't know. I mean, right now, it looks like they should re-sign Sanders. He looks so freaking good. There was there was one pass early in the game. I think it was on either our first or second drive where I think Hurts just forced the ball to him a little too quick and he didn't hang on to it. I feel like that's a ball that probably gets caught if the weather conditions are better.
Yeah, and
Hurts put a little too much on that one though.
but there's also a play later. I think it was after the first half, I believe, where Miles took it and made 6 or 7 guys miss. Yeah, he didn't get a ton of yards, but in those type of conditions, and he was able to move in the speed, and it just shows you his burst. And there were some really big holes to run through, but there was also some maneuvering he was doing as well, and it wasn't just bouncing it to the outside or certain things that he was doing previous years. But if he's able to do something like this, it changes everything, because also I think what helps him is when Jalen Hurts does that RPO, the defenders are going to have to account for Jalen, because if they don't, he's going to take off running. He's going to get a good 6, 7, 8 yards. And if they do commit to him, you give it to Miles. Miles can get that 4, 5, 6 yards. So that type of the offense, I think, is very, beneficial, because also you can use it with the pass because you have all these playmakers. And it's just, Jacksonville's not a bad team. I think Jacksonville could probably win the AFC South. They got a young team. They're quick. They spent a lot of money in free agency last year. Trevor Lawrence had one of his worst games as a pro with all the fumbles. But again, he's still pretty good. He's still a young quarterback and everything there. And I think he's in good hands with Doug Peterson, which I was happy to see that he did get a standing ovation, because he deserves that for what he brought to this city. So that was a good thing. That was a very good thing to see.
Yeah.
But now we kind of turn the page here, looking at the Week 5 matchup in Arizona to play the Arizona Cardinals. And, looking at the Cardinals roster, looking at their injuries, their one thing is their offensive line. Their offensive line is beat up. And the way this Eagles defensive line and this pass rush has been playing could bode beneficial to the Eagles in that matchup, to be able to control that side of the ball. And it goes with both lines, because I know the nose tackle for Arizona, Rashad Lawrence, was also on the injury report, was out last week. So again, if you can win up front, they're going to have a pretty good day, but you just got to watch for Kyler Murray to just run around, because that's what he likes to do. Keep contained, I would like to say.
Did you see, it was the little meme, Kyler Murray looks like a toddler that stole his parents' phone when he runs? Did you see that?
I did.
Oh my God. So now every time I watch the Cardinals, and I actually meant to bring that up earlier, I can't think of anything but that. It's so freaking funny.
Yeah, but again, I think the main thing is containment. You're going to have to contain, because if you lose your angles and you leave lanes wide open for him to run right up the middle or run around you can't be doing that. You got to have to keep contained and try and control him. And I don't know, their offense, like Bo was saying, their offense gets off to slow starts. The Eagles can get off to a quick start and put Arizona in the hole. Yeah, I know Arizona's come back. They came back on the Raiders. They're able to, do that and win some games by coming back. But I think it's going to be a little tougher against this Eagles defense to be able to put up multiple touchdowns in a short amount of time.
Yeah. I would love us to get the ball and just run it right down their throat, score first this game. I know, they like to defer, but sometimes you got to take that competitive advantage and take it to them early. What do you think about 425 games? You like them? Yeah, nay?
I like 425 games.
I like them. 425 games are the only time where I sit in the recliner and my wife serves me dinner. Like any other time, it's like, yeah, it's up there. You can get your own plate. You know what I mean? But she brings it to me. It's like, do you need a beer, honey? I'm like, this is great. You can play at 425 every week, in my opinion.
425 every week. Well,
I do like 425 games though. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, if the Eagles would have moved out to Arizona, they would be 425 every week, basically, almost.
Well, here's the thing: if I remember when they were talking about that. My dad is the reason I'm an Eagles fan. So I was really young, not as into it then. You know what I mean? He's like, I won't watch football. So the reality is,
Peanut agrees with you, by the way. 425 games are the best.
my man. The reality is, if he wasn't watching it, it probably wouldn't have been on at my house. So I might not be an Eagles fan today. So
Yeah, that's a good point because
like a Washington fan, it's close.
Yeah.
Wolf.
You know, the reason I'm a football fan was because my uncle lived with us when I was really young for a short amount of time, and he would always have football on. So first game that I ever really paid attention to was 1996 Super Bowl, the Patriots and the Packers. I remember watching the Eagles playoff game the week before, but I wasn't really paying too much attention. Paid attention to that. So, it happens. No, it's a good, but no, 425 games. I like 425 games because it starts to get, darker earlier.
Yeah.
It's cool outside, everything. I don't mind night games, but 425 games, I would agree, are the best. I will give you that.
You like night games because you're a psychopath.
Well, that may be true. But all in all, the Eagles have, the keys to victory. And I know you brought up a couple things, but, running it down their throat. I think the Eagles can take advantage of their secondary. I know Budda Baker is good. Byron Murphy's, pretty good corner, but, they don't have a lot of depth. Trayvon Mullen, they have Marco Wilson, Antonio Hamilton possibly will be back, but they don't have a whole ton of depth, a lot of depth in the secondary. So if you're able to, attack them there and get chunk plays, because the Eagles are the most explosive offense. I saw a chart, they had 36 plays of, I think there's like 10 or more runs or 20 or more, like 20 or more yards per play. And then there was like 10 or more for rushing or whatever, like 20 yards pass or more, or 10 yards of rushing or more. And they had 36 total of those type of plays. They were tied, I think, possibly with the Lions. I'll have to look. But for me, I think that's big. If you're able to get chunk plays on this Arizona team and put points, because they're, like I said, their offense has been kind of sluggish. So, for me, that would be, of course, Peanut here. He was 16 at my first experience.
That sounds very intimate, just the way he worded that.
Yeah, well, that's that's okay. That's okay. But since you want to bring up last week and what you had predicted, I will go over the predictions, and then, but before I go over the predictions, I'm just going to play a little snippet of.
It's time for the Ulecka Locks of the week. Who's your lock?
All righty. And without further ado, there is some music to be played.
Oh, is there?
So, last week, the predictions, you like that little ambiance.
It is. Nice.
So, Ulecka Locks last week, I had Hurts 2 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown. I missed that one.
I'm sure. Yeah, but you also probably didn't know that the weather was going to be the way it was.
No, I did not know that.
Exactly.
Okay. You had Devontae Smith 3 catches for 50 yards. Wait, hold on.
Hold
I'm on the wrong week. Look, I did it again. And it's even written at the top of the paper. Here we go. So I got a little preoccupied with this music and stuff. It really got me going. So you had Michigan beating Iowa by 3 scores.
Yeah.
What was the final of that game? If you'd like to bring that up.
Verse.
So when you look that up, I'm going to go with. So I had the Philly defense with 2 interceptions. Unfortunately, they had one interception. James Bradbury had that interception, but
Fantastic interception, by the way.
very fantastic interception. And him and Slayer, I think 2 and 3 in the passer rating, passer rating against. So Eagles have a heck of a combo there between those two guys. And our guest last week had Trevor Lawrence has 1 interception. So he was right there. He did have him that he was going to throw a pick.
And my lock was right. 27-14. Touchdown and 2 field goals. That's 3 scores, bud.
You are correct. Oh, look at
Oh, I'm
that.
technically correct. My favorite.
Yeah, technically, you are correct.
Oh. Love
So I'm going to play that because I have different music for when we do the predictions.
it. Ooh.
So, yeah,
Still wait to make our locks first.
we do.
Yeah.
So go ahead and what is your lock, Mr. What are you, 4-0 now? You're like the Eagles, undefeated.
I think. Well, then we better hope that my locks keep coming true. If my locks come true and the Eagles keep winning, let's keep it rolling. Okay. So my lock for this week: the Jets go on the road. I'm sorry, the Jets beat the road team, the Miami Dolphins. Zach Wilson, 2 touchdowns.
Jets beat the Dolphins.
Yeah. It's going to be a
And-
tough game, too.
What was the last part?
Zach Wilson has 2 passing touchdowns and banged somebody's mom after the game.
Well, that's a given. So we're not going to add that.
I love how he just takes this all in stride, too. He's just like, whatever.
Yeah. You know the other funny part? I liked his one, I don't know if it was a reel or something on Instagram. He posted it and Giselle Bundchen liked it. That was probably doctored, but I thought that was pretty funny.
That would be epic.
And Peanut, yes, it is some NFL film stuff. But yeah, gives a little bit some ambiance.
There you go.
Using a lot too many big words this week. But for my Ulecka Locks, I want to stick with this game. So it's going to go into my prediction because I think the Eagles break that streak of not winning in Arizona since 2001. And they're going to get their first win at State Farm Stadium. I believe that's what the stadium is called.
These new stadium names suck, by the way. I just want to put that out there.
It's all about money. That's really all it's about. So if someone has the most money, they're going to get the stadium. Just like when Seattle, it was not Safeco Field anymore. It's T-Mobile Park. Yeah. I don't like that. I like different. Well, look at Heinz Field. Heinz Field is I can't even say the name, so I don't even know.
I don't know.
Like
I'm pretty sure everyone
Acura?
still just calls it Heinz Field.
Yeah, most likely. But now we're going to get into the predictions
All right.
from last week. And
I just want to say, every time I hear this music, I just hear Chris Berman going, "The Raiders."
whoop, he does that.
Yeah.
So last week, you did predict 29 points for the Eagles. So I will give you that. You did put 29 points for the Eagles. It was 29-24 you predicted. And I predicted 30-24. So we were pretty close.
I was close. I was off by a couple points overall, but I'll take that.
So what is your prediction
All
for
right,
this
so
week?
my prediction for this week: Birds go on the road and win it 31-24.
31 to what?
31-24.
31-24.
Right.
Let me jot that down on the right date with the right week on it.
You should just make a Google document with this on.
Maybe I will. So I will have you at 31-24 Eagles.
That way you don't lose it when you move.
So the way I'm looking at this game, the Eagles come in, riding high, 4-0. They're not going to, sleep on this Cardinals team because Kyler Murray can put points up. He can be dynamic. And I think Hassan Reddick wants to show his old team what he can do. He will cause havoc because he'll be on Beacham's side. And the way he threw Jawan Taylor to the ground a couple times last week was great.
Hassan Reddick looked so good last week.
Yeah.
I feel like, and the thing is, we're not even this defense isn't even as good as it can be.
Oh, I agree with you.
Epps is still coming into his own as a full-time starter. CJ Gardner-Johnson has only been here for like a week more than the season. He's still learning the defense. This defense can still get better. I'm still holding my breath about the defensive line holding up over the course of the season. I would love to see them add a pass rusher before the trade deadline. We'll see. Right now, everything's clicking. I'm happy about it.
Yeah, and I think it's going to keep clicking. And I'm going to go Philadelphia gets this win, like I made in my Ulecka Locks. Eagles win 30-17.
Ooh, that's a big win.
So it's going to be a nice statement. It's going to be a great victory. Eagles get that win at State Farm Stadium that they've never had. Possibly they mark that victory. They mark that stadium on their calendar because they want to see that come February.
Cool.
If you get my drift.
Let's do it.
But with that kind of brings us to the tail end of the show. Of course, Peanut chiming in with a good old stadium name. Yeah, there's a lot of, hey, if there's money, you never know. That may be the new Seattle Stadium when they get an NBA team. But, the Eagles going to have it's going to be a tough game, but that kind of ends the opposition outlook of the Cardinals and the Eagles. We have some shows I'm going to pull up here so we get this going. Of course, I'll say some sponsors first, and then we'll get into the shows. But Vinny's Pizza and Restaurant located off the Iroquois Trail, the Old Town Shopping Center in Allentown. Visit them today, vinnyspizzapa.com, for some specials. We will be having a commercial shortly with these kind of detail and everything. So definitely look on the lookout for that. Stuff to the Grills, also located the Iroquois Trail in the Old Town Shopping Center in Allentown, www.stufftothegrills.com. Definitely check them out. If you cater in, need someone to cater an event, call them, look up, contact them. If you just want to stop in and get some good food, also either call them or go in
I've
there.
never been there, but I've eaten off their food truck because they go to a lot of local breweries. Top notch.
Yeah. It's Mike approved.
And it's the name is very punny, so I like it.
Yeah. And of course, AATSportsNetwork.com/shop. Check that out for all the gear and everything there. We do also have a new sponsor that will be rolling out in the next couple of weeks. And if you didn't see Birds, Beers, and BS this Sunday at Doan Distillery at the Trolley Barn in Quakertown, that is also one of our new sponsors. So that's something that we'll be bringing them up as well. I wanted to at least give them a shout out. Definitely check them out. If you haven't checked out Birds, Beers, and BS, make sure that you're tuning into that. Make sure that you go back and take a look at that the pregame show for the Jaguars Eagles pregame show that Doan Distillery hosted. So definitely check them out. Of course, YouTube exclusive with the guys over there, Jeff and Peanut, doing their thing. Also check out Across the Pitch, the Union Soccer Show. Union are getting very close into the postseason season, so definitely check out Mike and Dave doing their work there. The World Cup is also coming up, so I know they thinking about having something planned for that. So definitely keep an eye out for Across the Pitch. And of course, Burning Bridges on Tuesday nights with me and Jeremy. We did miss this week. We took a quick week off. We'll be back next week to kind of talk about the NFL Week 5. Jeremy and I will get into this Cardinals-Eagles matchup with him being in Arizona. And, of course, we're over here. Definitely something to talk about along the lines of that. And again, we will be doing another pregame show at Dome Distillery. Details will follow. So definitely keep an eye out for that. We'll have everything up, graphics, all that kind of stuff will be up. So make sure you're either checking in or come out and see us and come in, be a part of the show, join the show, just support the show, whatever you want. But definitely keep your eyes peeled for that. So with that, gonna play quick little outro here, and then we end every show with a very happy and cheerful "Go Birds."
Go Birds.